Hello, today we're going to be making a card using our In Love Art Shop dies that I received for my design team. And I'm going to be showing you from beginning to end how we're going to make this card. If you have any questions, leave them down below in the description box. Links to all the supplies used in today's card will also be in the description box, along with a coupon code to save 20% off of your order, which is huge. I don't know of many folks right now who are doing such a big discount. This is Canson XL watercolor paper. I have cut it down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So it's basically the same size as an A2 card front. I am using an anti-static bag, and I'm just going to go over my cardstock quickly so that it does not have any residue or static or anything that's not going to make for a good stamped impression. The stamp today is from, I think it's Waffle Flower, and I'm going to be using some Versamark ink, which is just a watermark ink pad, to do my actual stamping. When you're inking a stamp, you want to use some pretty good pressure on it. And then I am using a Misty stamping tool. And you just want to push down on your stamped image and hold that for maybe a count of 2 or 3. This particular stamp pad is not all that wet, so we are going to be stamping it a couple of times, which is fine because this Misty makes that easy to do. So if you guys did not know this already, I'm going to give you a little tidbit of trivia here and save you a lot of money for the re-inking of your Versamark pad. A Versamark pad's ink isn't ink at all. It is actually glycerin. So if you have some glycerin, like the little bottles of glycerin that you can buy in the pharmacy section of your grocery store or Walmart, Kmart, whatever, then that's what the ink is. You can just re-ink your pad with that. And it works great. That's what this one got re-inked with last time. It's just that I've used quite a bit of it here lately with my card making. So I'm going to have to be re-inking that very soon. Alright, that should be good. We're going to take this off the Misty. Get the Misty out of our way for now. And I am going to be using some white detail embossing powder. This is, I think it's Ranger. I'm pretty sure it is Ranger. It's because that's all I really have right now. Bought it from my local store, and I used my coupon. You're not really going to be able to see this very well because it is white and it's the same color as the paper below it. Let's see if you can see it. Not too bad, actually. I like to give mine a couple of good thumps just to get any excess powder off of that paper, so we don't have to do it later. My Wagner heat tool that I've had over 11 years died recently, so I'm using a cheap heat gun, and it's going to take a little bit longer for it to heat up than normal, so I will probably just mute the sound and catch you after this is all said and done. For the watercoloring of this card, I'm going to be using my Mission Gold watercolors by Magella, or Magello, I'm not sure how it's actually pronounced. And I purchased this small little palette from Amazon. They're basically half pans, and so I just squeeze some of each color out to make a palette. And so that I can easily mix colors and get what I want, I'm going to just grab a piece of plastic or acetate or whatever I can find here, and I'm going to use that for my mixing palette. You can also just buy a cheapy palette from your Walmart or wherever. Okay, so I have some water here I'm not even going to show it to you. I'm hoping you can't see it. It's gross. I just need a little bit to kind of help keep my image wet. And I'm going to pick up this green, the slider green first. You really don't need a lot of paint. Matter of fact, it's amazing to me how little you really need. And this is a really, really bright, fun green. And I'm going to pick up some of this darker green right here and just mix that in so it's kind of a two-tone. Now, I know you cannot see this very well, but we're going to do our best. When I told this just a little tiny bit, you can, in fact, see the image pretty well for painting. Or if you want, you can stamp this with a Copic-friendly ink like Memento Tuxedo Black and use it instead. Alright, this is where you need to decide what color your flowers are going to be. This is your project, so you don't have to have them any particular color. It's up to you. I'm using a baby wipe to kind of clean in between colors. This does a little bit better job than dipping your brush into dirty water. So I did re-dampen my brush, and I'm not really sure what I want to do. Take this red right here. I think I'm going to just custom mix something here. Now, there's one thing about this Magellan watercolor palette that I actually don't like. It did not come with a white. The white paint that I'm using in this palette is actually one from Academy. It's not the best quality, but you know, when you want to get something a little bit lighter or just kind of change its tone from cool to warm or warm to cool or whatever that is, then that's what you're going to do. I'm going to mix this color until I like it. It's a little too light right now. Starting to get where I want it. I'm actually a big fan of a dusty rose type color. The paint itself is not as opaque as you'd like. You can always come back and add more water to it, and then instead of picking up the paint from your palette, you can pick it up from your image and just lighten it up a little bit, or like I said, make it more opaque, a little bit more see-through. There are no fancy brush strokes that you need to use, and really not a light source. I usually paint these however I like them. I do pay some attention to like the bottoms of the images, because obviously something that's underneath something else is going to be a little darker. It's going to have a little shading, so that's something that can be easily added. So this image right here still has way too much ink on it, so I'm going to take my baby wipe and gently press down and pull up, and that's going to take a lot of that color that you don't want out. I'm going to do it again. So down in here, this little area would actually be a little bit darker. If you are a beginner, a true beginner, where you've never done anything like this, my only real advice is to buy a more inexpensive set of watercolor, like the kind you can get from like Hobby Lobby or Michael's or whatever, because they at least give you a way to experiment with colors without spending a whole lot of money. But I know personally that I have actually completely, totally fallen in love with watercolors and watercolor brushes. So anytime they go on sale at my local stores, and I will buy a few just to see which ones I like the best. I have a set of Squirrel watercolor brushes. They are not what I anticipated, but I do like them. They are different than your regular watercolors brushes are, but that also makes them quite nice to work with. So.
Just a little bit right there of that stem. Go back and add those little pieces in, and add a little bit extra color in through there as well. The darker green is quite nice for that. So, okay, so this seed pod, because it's
doesn't have any pigment from the flower itself, would probably in nature be a little bit darker. It may also be a little bit have a little brown or a little bit muddy color in it, and I've added way too much water to this, but we can fix that. Once again, take a baby wipe and just pull it up. So I have decided that while I was pulling that up, I do want to take just a very tiny little bit of brown and just wash over the top of this. So while it's still the same color as the rest of this flower, it is not perfectly the same. And you can differentiate quite easily between the pod and the other flowers that are in our piece. Okay, so this is actually a little too dark for me as well. I'm going to redampen my brush and go over the top. And then I'm going to take my baby wipe and try to pull some of that excess color out, and that's actually quite perfect. Now I'm going to add a little bit of interest because if we were looking at this flower outside or in nature and the breeze was blowing a little bit, you would get a little bit of splatter. I'm not going to go hog wild with splatter. I'm going to make some very intentional little, in this case, brown dots, where I think that the flower would be giving off some of its pollen or its little seeds if we were seeing it in nature. You're going to want to use the skinniest point of your brush and then just go straight up and down. And you're going to want these random. If you have a place like this one where you went outside of the line, so to speak, while you were coloring the image, cover it up. No one will ever know. So, alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat this one more time, and then I'm going to go over it with a cloth, probably my sleeve. Okay, so because we have used embossing powder, the wonderful thing about this is honestly that we are able to just buff it a little bit, and that embossing powder is going to resist the paint. So any paint that is on top of that embossing powder is literally going to rub right off. So we're just going to, you don't have to do it real hard, but you do want to get it done. Okay, so I'm going to grab a couple of dies and we will get ready for the card completion. I have a cream colored A2 card base. A2 once again measures 5.5 by 4.25 when it's folded anyway. And I'm going to just use some double-sided adhesive. This is score tape just because it's what I have on my desk. So we're gonna tape this real quick so we can put it on our card base. I hope that everyone is doing well. My youngest son is going to be home for a couple days and then go spend some time with his father in Georgia. So I am very thankful that he's chosen or is choosing to come see us before he goes down there for Christmas. We're just going to layer this card base on. This is pretty simple because the way that these scallops are, it makes it pretty easy to line up. Straight enough for government work. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and glue this down. Instead of using tape, we're going to use glue. This is Zig two-way glue. If I weren't on camera, this would be going perfectly straight, but I'm on camera. This is one of the dies that I got in my design team kit, and you have some working time. So this is one of the nesting ornament dies is what they're called, but they're actually tag dies. I will be leaving all the information to the products in the description box. The interesting thing about this particular die is that if you look at this piece that cut out of the middle of this frame, this one is almost exactly the same except for the sides. This Quickie 2-way glue from Kiritaki actually dries perfectly clear, so you'll never even see it. And I did use that tag die to cut out my focal image. Let's get that pushed down. This is a die from the Stamps of Life, and I cut it out 3 times and stacked it on top of each other. And I'm going to use that glue pen to put glue on it. Kind of put that where we want it. These stitch lines make it quite easy to line it up so it's straight. And there is a card. It's all finished. I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, please give me a thumbs up. Share my videos on your social media. If you haven't and you'd like to be, please subscribe to my channel. Have a great day, everyone. Stamp happy and be a blessing. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.